Alright, y'all. I want to talk to y'all a little bit about this boxing talk. Hope everybody having a good day, heading into a good weekend. But, I always say people have their opinions. They're entitled to it. They're entitled to say what they want to say, feel how they want to feel, state what they want to state, and state so with their own convictions, beliefs, or whatever. But I honestly, even saying that and feeling that way, I do have a problem when I start to hear people constantly say things that I know that they don't really believe themselves. You know what I'm saying? I have a hard time thinking that they believe these things themselves. And one of the things that I say about that is, it's one thing when you got somebody saying something, so you kind of hear it once, hear it twice, maybe hear it 3 times, and you kind of just gloss it over and be like, that's their opinion. That's what they want to say, or that's what they're pushing for views, or for likes, or for comments and conversations on their channel to keep it going, and that's understandable to an extent. But when you start having people come to your channel, or for me, come to my channel, repeating those statements, then that's when I kind of have to say, okay, wait a minute, man, what are we doing here? Like, wait a minute, why? I understand that this person or that person or that person or whoever is saying what they say and they believe and feel what they feel, or even if they don't believe it, that's what they want to put out there today. But just because somebody states it on the internet, just because somebody makes a video, just because somebody gets on their YouTube platform and screams and hollers and says it, that doesn't make it true. That doesn't make it factual. That doesn't even make it come to fruition. That just means that that's just how they feel, or that's just what they're saying. And like I said, for me, that's all well and fine, but man, people don't believe everything that somebody says. I don't care how much they say it with conviction, or how much they holler, or how menacing they may try to look into the camera as they're saying it, or how much vigor and vitriol they say it with. Don't take that as gospel just because your favorite YouTuber is saying it. And like I said, people can say and feel what they want to feel, but like I said, do your own due diligence. Think about what you're repeating before you go spreading and propagating that all over YouTube and all over boxing platforms and forums, repeating the same stuff. Because I've even seen some of these same comments on posts in boxing scene. So it's kind of like, that's when it kind of gets a little annoying. Like, okay, people keep saying this, it's not going to make it true, and it's not actually helping this fighter's case. And the one thing I'm talking about, I ain't gonna say the one thing, but one of the things that just jumps out at me is this sudden claim that now Ennis versus Errol Spence Jr. is supposedly the biggest fight, potentially in the welterweight division, or even potentially in the sport of boxing. I think that's to be polite. Let's just say that's a far reach. That's a far reach from the truth, and I feel like that's more so than anything else. That may be an attempt to diminish or devalue Errol Spence Jr.'s potential fight with another welterweight fighter who happens to have fell out of favor with a lot of your favorite YouTubers. So I just say this: if those of you who are going around repeating that really believe that, I hope you believe it, and that you're repeating it based on things you see and have read and actually feel yourself, not just because you're hearing somebody else holler it out. Because at the end of the day, claims like that don't help young Boots Ennis. When the majority of boxing fans have no idea who Boots Ennis is, have never heard his name, have never wouldn't know his first name. If you told them, they'd be like, who? Because the reality is, while Boots Ennis is such a phenom, he's a phenomenal talent. He could potentially be the best welterweight in the world, and he may get the opportunity to prove that one day. But even with that being the case, we can look at a guy who truly was the best in the world in his division by most accounts, and that's Andre Ward when he was at 154 pounds, when he was at 168 pounds. And Andre Ward being matched against nobody was the biggest fight in the world, or even maybe not even the biggest fight in his division. You know, when you talk about, like, at that time when Ward was the best at 175, probably the perceived biggest fight at 175 pounds was Adonis Stevenson versus Sergey Kovalev. And that just goes to show that sometimes your skills and how great you are don't necessarily translate to a fight being huge. Roy Jones Jr., the guy who some people like to compare Boots Ennis to, not myself, not very much, but Roy was never in the biggest fight in boxing. Roy was rarely in the biggest fights in his division. But it didn't diminish how great he was. It just, for some reason, his fights just never really became, and I think part of it was Roy was a victim of how great he was. It's like people knew going in what was going to happen. And I know some people make the comparison and say, well, Floyd was the same way, but Roy wasn't this guy that people just wanted to see lose. So they weren't just tuning in like, I hope this guy beats him. So, you know, and I don't really understand what makes people come to fights and tune in and pay and what doesn't. You know, so I'm not going to pretend I really have a firm understanding of that, because I don't really know why people get behind certain fighters and not behind other fighters, or why they overly criticize certain fighters and not other fighters. But I will say that this situation here with the propagation of Boots Ennis somehow stepping into superstardom all of a sudden after beating Sergey Lipinets, I think it's highly exaggerated, and I think it's foolhardy, and I think it's a jaded attempt to diminish the value of another fighter at 147 pounds, and it's an attempt to diminish the value of a fight that we as boxing fans have wanted for quite some time and have grown tired of waiting on. But I'm not going to, and I'm as tired as anybody of the fight not being made, but I'm not going to sit here and try to elevate somebody else to a position that they have not put themselves in. You know, it's just not their time right now. Now, granted, if they get the fights, they may come out of that situation and make it their time. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like this guy has elevated himself to a position to unseat somebody else as the potential opponent for Errol Spence Jr. that will make the super fight at 147 pounds. It will be a fight where Errol Spence Jr. would be fighting a highly talented, very appreciated guy by the hardcore boxing fans, but a guy that the casual fans have no idea even exists. And I will say the same thing in reverse. Boots Ennis versus the other guy who they're trying to diminish, if he was fighting that guy, that fight pales in comparison in terms of popularity of a fight versus Errol Spence Jr. and that other guy who certain people are trying to be dismissive of and diminish his popularity or diminish his ability to actually make that fight versus Errol Spence Jr. as big as it is, or as big as it would be. Like I said, people get on here and just say whatever they feel like saying. I understand it, I get it, but at the end of the day, gotta have some kind of credibility, gotta have some kind of integrity in what you're putting out there, because a lot of these people, they're looking for somebody to follow in terms of who is gonna feed me my boxing, my daily boxing content, because I don't want to grab magazines. I don't want to go on these publications and look for it. I just want it right now. So I just want to put a YouTube video on, go out jogging, and listen to you talk boxing. I want to sit back in my lazy boy, read a book, and I want to listen to you talk boxing. You know, I'm working from home. I got my earbuds in. I want to listen to you tell me about boxing in 2021. So if you're going to be, or we're going to be the guys, and I have a very small channel, I realize that. I'm not trying to big up my channel like I'm some major platform. But my point is, if we're going to come on here and talk boxing and try to usher in people to the sport of boxing who may necessarily be on the fence of not want to listen to boxing, talk, not want to watch boxing, not want anything to do with boxing. I think we got to have some kind of level of integrity, responsibility, and accountability for the things that we're telling them. And I say the same thing for these fighters when they get on here and diminish and talk down on other fighters. When you're talking down on these other fighters, you're talking down on the sport. Because these fighters collectively are the sport of boxing. I'm going to leave it at that. D-Lo 404 Boxing. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.